Yeah, okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
Committee. Well, here we are in Ways and Means on Thursday, January 15th, otherwise known as second report filing deadline day. December 15th being first report deadline filing day. And almost as important as April 15th. Anyway, that was just my little tax joke, team. Really ready to start the day off with a bang. We're doing miscellaneous tax. Rebecca Samaroff, the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Taxes, was on the agenda. She's not able to make it today. The bulk of the language we're looking at is by request of the tax department, and the tax department's not here to explain the whys of that. But in order to just proceed through, or in order to try to be efficient with our time, what we're going to do is Kirby's going to take us through the language. Most of it's fairly straightforward, and can flag which parts came from the tax department and which parts didn't. Then we'll have Rebecca or someone else from tax in another day to get deeper into some of the explanations if folks need more context on them. And then after the break, we're going back to the issue of the federal tax and budget bill and the impacts on Vermont, including corporate taxes. So we're doing that before lunch and after lunch. And then after the floor, we are coming back here and hearing about the state aid for school construction working group. Sound good? Great. Kirby, you want to join us? And there are donuts over there.
Better see it, Woody.
Thank you, Representative Page. They're gorgeous.
I see a curvy local balance. You can send me over.
Yep.
Get better.
Such is life in democracy.
Good morning, everyone. Kirby Keaton, Legislative Council.
Good morning.
I've been sick. Seems like it got to Rebecca eventually. Feel her pain. Been there recently. So we are looking at a committee bill that will be the miscellaneous tax bill, an act relating to miscellaneous administrative and policy changes to the tax laws. And in section 1, we start off with some corporate income tax trivia. Did you know that Vermont currently, and since the mid-90s, has not allowed an S corp to take a credit for taxes paid to other states? But LLCs and partnerships and sole proprietorships, they do. They are allowed to.
Do you know how that happened in the 90s?
I was busy playing Street Fighter 2. So no, I haven't been able to dig into that. On the surface, it appears that S corps were probably seen at the time as having too favorable tax treatment.
I think Rebecca will have a great story that she'll share with us when she gets here.
Does she?
She does actually, yeah.
I wish I knew that. So section 1 is repealing that. Section 2 deals with the transfer tax, the property transfer tax. And those of you that have been here a little while, or at least as long as I have, will remember a couple of sessions ago, there was a new higher rate created for the transfer tax that was targeting sales of second homes. It's a 3.4% rate, which is almost a couple percent higher than the regular rate. And it applies to residential property that is fit for habitation on a year-round basis, that will not be used as the principal residence of the transferee, and for which the transferee will not be required to provide a landlord certificate pursuant to section 6069 of this title. Now, This originated back then out of the Senate. And I do recall telling Senate committees at least, landlord certificate's 30 days. Sure, you don't want to make it longer. They're like, it's fine, it's fine. It's like, okay. Well, as it turns out,
But you were right.
of course,
Street fighting.
this this loophole has gotten popular with law firms in Vermont. And they're holding themselves out with, hey, come to us. You won't have to pay the higher transfer tax rate. We'll set this up. You rent it to a family member for a month because landlord certificate, you've got to file one if it's rented for 30 days. And then you're good. You don't have to pay this rate. Another way that you could get around this landlord certificate issue is set up an LLC. Have the LLC buy the property, rent it to yourself. There, it has a landlord certificate, no transfer tax, or no higher rate for the transfer tax. So the tax, by the way, these first ones that I'm going through are all from Department of Taxes. I would not have, without getting their permission in most cases, I have developed this particular solution, which is kind of work intensive for them, but they're suggesting it. We're adding a provision here saying if a transfer would have been subject to the tax rate under subdivision 4 of the section, that's the higher rate. But for the transferee's filing of a landlord certificate of rent for which there is no bona fide landlord-tenant relationship between the parties, the commissioner shall assess tax at the rate under subdivision 4. To make this determination, the commissioner may consider whether the transferee and tenant are related parties, whether the transferee charges the tenant fair market rent, whether the transferee is an entity with a business purpose other than the avoidance of property transfer tax, and any other factor the commissioner deems relevant. So this gives the department some auditing power here to look into these things. The reason I said I would have been scared to do this because it's work intensive for them, but that's what they're suggesting. And it might be because, I mean, what else are they going to do? I would say that originally I thought you would keep most people from playing games if you just made it a longer period of time that you had to have a landlord certificate. But this is definitely a way to go about it. So that's what they've suggested. Section 3 deals with, this is the miscellaneous tax bill. We're going from corporate to transfer tax. Now we're in current use. Section 3.
Do they present language like that? Do they present like the cost benefit of doing this as opposed to just extending the 30 days? I mean, what I worry about is the complexity of the task is cost and time and money.
You can ask someone that can.
And I wasn't, and I didn't bring up what I brought up to like criticize them.
No,
or
I
anything.
know,
I'm
it's something we're seeing across the entire
Yeah.
state government. It's not unique to Nassau.
Okay, so I think we're on page 4. At the bottom of page 4 now, under the land use change tax statute, which is the land use change tax, for some background, is when land is developed, that's enrolled in current use, and then it's developed, and of course there's a definition for development. Land use change tax becomes due. It's 10% of the fair market value. So fairly steep price because it's meant to be an incentive to keep land in current use for a long amount of time. When you, just for more background, when you withdraw your land from current use, you don't have to pay land use change tax, but you do when you develop it later.
Right.
So it's tied to the development. The issue that's being addressed with this change is that the municipality has to be the entity under the law to value that the land that's developed to determine the fair market value and to know how much land use change tax is due at that time. For some municipalities, that could be tricky because they're busy and they don't always have a lot of staff. So there's this problem of people having developed land, enrolled land, and then having to wait a very long time to know how much tax they owe. So this first part says, if a municipality does not establish a fair market value in 30 days, PVR will establish the fair market value within 30 days. So again, this is an instance of the department taking on some work, but to try to help solve a problem.
That's interesting. This is a generic question. I'm not trying to poke a finger at anybody, but are we confident that PBR could come up with a quality fair market value?
I mean, it's definitely a question for them, but I mean, PVR has district advisors on their staff who are the ones who train a lot of the listers and assessors. So they have very qualified people.
Basic comparative basis, they'd have a rational basis to come up with. They would have a rational basis to come up with a.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they have in mind, but I know they have like very qualified people.
I'm not overtly skeptical. I'm just wondering.
And when Rebecca comes in, you can ask her again, but they do this kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
good, thank you.
Right? Representative Brennan?
This may also be a Rebecca question, but are we talking about municipal tax or school tax or both?
When it comes to land use change tax,
Yes.
neither. It's its own tax.
It's now due because they developed it.
The land use change tax is, we'll actually get to that language where a portion of it goes to the ed fund and a portion of it goes to general fund.
Okay.
Does not go to municipality. But,
None to the municipality.
well, except up to $2,000 can go to the municipality, which is, this is what we were about to get to. Currently up to $2,000, but no, we're there, so we're gonna do it. Up to $2,000 can go to the municipality when they do the fair market value determination, right? This language, though, does state that if PVR has to come in and do it, then the municipality will not keep their cut because they didn't do it.
Okay.
First. You can go, Representative Brennan.
My concern about that is that then if the municipality really isn't. The second thing is, how many properties does this impact every year? I don't know if you know this.
I think those are both great questions for Rebecca.
Yeah,
Representative Wozniak.
Yeah, perfect question. The way this is written for the 30 days and then the 30 days. So filling a determination of fair market value by the local assessment office within 30 days. PVR, basically, are we talking about 60 days or is it instantaneous once that?
Could be as long as 60 days.
Okay, that's what
It could be where you waited for the town for 30 days,
Yeah.
then PVR takes over and then they have 30 days.
Great.
Another thing that's in here is there's a lot of 30 days going on. What's not explicit here is that the appeal period is usually 14 days from one of these determinations, but that's also being changed to 30 days. So we're just 30 days all over the place. So 30 days to make an appeal, which,
For 30 days from the municipality failing to do it, 30 days from language or?
no, it's except that the owner shall have 30 days to appeal the determination to the municipality or to the director as applicable under the section. That would be after receiving notice
Yeah,
of the determination
okay.
of the fair market value determination. Yeah,
I want to just mess out, right?
this language is from tax and
Yeah.
they feel good about it.
Representative Burkhardt?
Yes, so, and forgive me, I have not had a chance to read this in detail yet. So if they can appeal to the municipality or PVR, and you're in a situation where the municipality hasn't put the value on it, why would they be able to appeal to municipality? Should they have to appeal to PBR? And then you're creating work for the municipality then that they're not getting paid for because they've foregone their.
So under current law, the municipality is supposed to determine the fair market value. And then you would appeal to the municipality because they're the ones making that determination. One thing that happens, I'm aware of this, and I'm sure tax will come in and say the same, is that people aren't sure sometimes who they're supposed to appeal to, especially considering when they enrolled in current use and so forth, they did it through the state. So they'll appeal to the state, which is not the right procedure. As far as I know, tax tries to forward that on to the municipality. There's not Kafka-esque bureaucracy. I think they try to be good. And, this change actually has it written in that that an appeal to PBR counts. So that is one aspect of this change that we're talking about. So, after this language would take effect, what would happen would be either the municipality or PBR, depending on how things go down, determines fair market value. Appealing to either one of them counts and is fine. And it's up to the municipality and PBR to coordinate together the appeals process.
That still doesn't get to the point that the municipality made in the situation where it's having to go through whatever work it has to do to respond to an appeal, but they're not really getting paid to do that work. Is it possible for the municipality to just say, PBR, you put the value on it, so you're going to have to deal with the appeal? Or how does that work?
I imagine some municipalities may respond that way. So you'll have to talk to PBR about how they're envisioning this.
Thanks for what you said about the first time you've seen this, because I want to do a little what are we going to do with this bill announcement that I should have started with. Thank you. So miscellaneous tax, it's going to basically sit around until the week of crossover, at which point we will vote it out. Probably 2 weeks before that, we'll do a straw poll on each section separately.
That's right.
And likely after we hear from Rebecca, we probably won't look at this language again for another month unless someone wants more testimony on specific pieces of it. And probably we'll find some other paragraphs over the next month that we want to add to it. But it's a catch-all. If you have, and this is not a call for a brainstorm, but if you have something that really is sort of administrative miscellaneous, that is revenue neutral. And mostly low on the fiscal impact scale. This is the place for it. And so, maybe some of the language about our conversation with Fish and Wildlife yesterday might go in here, that kind of stuff. So that's sort of that is the path for this delightful bill. Last year, we actually did not have a miscellaneous tax bill. We farmed out all of the miscellaneous tax bill portions into special home for each of them. But we don't usually do that. And we did it because it felt like a year to have as few vehicles as possible floating around where they can make friends. So, but I think we're probably just going to try to move this bill this year. Yes, Representative Massey.
Thank you. And this is a question for us to sort out as we work our way through this, as you say, but it's interesting that there's two different routes to get to a goal line in this, which is an unusual way for us to work here. We usually try to establish a process and stick with it. So I'm just putting that out there for us to consider as we work our way through.
Yeah. I really do think that in this case, though, it's trying to be taxpayer friendly and that allowing, if you reach out to the wrong entity, then they'll still accept it.
And thank you for that explanation.
Sure. Okay. So the language here deals with the appeals that we talked about. In subsection D is the $2,000 town keeps up 2,000 if land use change tax is determined. If the fair market value is determined by the municipality. And then starting around line 15 is if the municipality's local assessing officials fail to timely determine fair market value of the withdrawn portion of the parcel pursuant to subsection C of this section, the municipality shall forfeit any tax paid. And we talked about that. And we also talked about how 3/4 of the tax goes to the ed fund, 1/4 goes to the general fund. Which is how it is currently done.
Yes, Representative.
Thank you. Was it you? It sounded like you might have put in the 30 days for the appeal of when they did.
Yeah,
Okay.
we haven't gotten into anything that I've done yet.
Okay. Thank you.
But I am speaking very confidently about it, like I have something to do with it, aren't I?
You general all 30-day thing.
Yes.
It sounded like you just made it all 30.
So in section 4, this ties into part of what was going on above. This is the 30-day appeal period for fair market value determination. I would just say for background that the current 14 days that's about as short of due process as you ever see in the state law.
My point was, I don't even think 30 days is enough time. But if you get this, you don't like it. Now, you have to find a lawyer. The
Yeah.
lawyer has to come to speak, and has to file an appeal. I don't even know how you do that. And we do not have
Representative
very
Woody,
many lawyers in the state. So
that's a great thing to talk to Rebecca about when she comes here.
I just thought since you brought it up.
Yeah, sure. No.
You know what
I think it's a good thing to think about as legislative counsel. I think thinking about, I mean, not just in the tax context, all through the building.
All through.
Think about that. Okay. So with section 5, starting at the bottom of page 6, we're still in current use. This is one I'm not going to be able to BS. Tax is definitely gonna have to explain this one.
I can explain a little bit of background on this.
Oh, really? You know about
Because I have a constituent.
grazing rights on a per head basis?
Be too sheepish now.
Oh, no. That was better than yesterday's. Yeah. I like that one. So,
Do you want me to set you up with what part we're looking at?
sure.
Okay. We are looking at to qualify to enroll ag land in current use. If you have more than 25 acres, it's relatively easy to enroll. If you have less than 25 acres, there's some additional requirements, additional hoops. One of them is if it's owned by a farmer as part of an overall farm unit. Another is it is used by a farmer as part of the farmer's operation under a written lease for at least 3 years. And then another way to qualify would be, this is it being the land here. It has produced an annual gross income from the sale of farm crops. And the addition here is or grazing rights on a per head basis in 1 of 2 or 3 of 5 calendar years preceding. And then there's these income requirements in addition to that are, not enormous. So the chair is now set up to explain the grazing rights.
So my understanding of their intent is essentially often you have a farmer who is essentially grazing their cows on their next door neighbor's land regularly, especially like newer farmers who might not be able to buy as much property as, say, like a longstanding family farm is able to. And so they use their neighbor's land for grazing. And this sort of allows that to happen. Yep. But Rebecca can get deeper into it. when she comes in.
I'm just curious, can the same sheet be used for multiple properties?
That's a really good question for
Because in
Rebecca.
our area, they actually rotate
Yes, they do.
animals around fall. So does everybody qualify in the neighborhood?
I don't know, let's find out.
It's how it's written. I mean, I can go to how it's written. It's about the grazing rights, the sale of grazing rights. So the number of
So the same 15 sheet could qualify the entire neighborhood. is what you're saying.
as long as they're being paid for in each case.
And can I ask one more question about first the 2,000? If the land is in, say, if the grazing pasture is in, say, trust, and the owner of maybe an adjacent homestead pays the trust $2,000 for the maple syrup produced on the trust land, does that count as $200,000 in agricultural proceeds?
In your hypothetical, this land has produced an annual gross income as in, because it's selling maple.
Let's say I own 25 acres and there's a, maple stand on it, and I produce syrup and I pay that farmland, or that I pay the trust that owns the farmland $2,000 for all the maple syrup, and then I just give it to my neighbors. Does that qualify for agricultural status in current use?
The trust owns the land,
Yep.
so the trust made
Hypothetically, trust.
the trust made the $2,000.
Correct.
Then it sounds like it would have received $2,000 for a gross income from the sale of farm crops, yes.
And then I could just give away the maple syrup
But that would have, that's not a one-time thing, it's be
every year.
continuously, yes.
Who applies for this? The guy with the sheep? Or cows or whatever, or his neighbor that he's using the land from?
The landowner.
You're asking if the sheep were making the application.
But they don't need to, just do the same one for every house.
Okay.
Do you have anything else?
I don't.
Okay,
So if.
What do you recommend?
is there a question for Kirby?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, great.
If a person thinks that that's too big of a loophole, what would they do? Meet with Kirby and then say?
I would encourage them to first meet with Rebecca and understand the whys and hows of this language being developed.
Okay.
And since this is also about current use, I would encourage them probably to also talk to the ag committee about it and then talk to Kirby and get some language that tightens the loophole.
All right, thank you.
But definitely let's understand the why before we.
It's.
Absolutely.
I just want to.
And I don't like this, none of this is my language either. Like I'm just,
And it's not,
just sitting on the table.
I'm just.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So section 6 on page 8 is a change to the municipal grand list stabilization program, which is new from Act 27 of 2025. The background here is there's a municipal grand list stabilization program. It reimburses municipalities for property tax revenue lost when flood-prone property is acquired by the municipality through a voluntary buyout. The municipality must keep the property undeveloped in this program, and municipalities are reimbursed for lost property taxes up to 10 years. Okay. This changes how the reimbursement is calculated to mirror more of how pilot payments are calculated, which is based off of the preceding year. I'm sure there are technical reasons why that's probably more convenient for the Department of Taxes that they could speak to, but that's in a nutshell what they're pitching here is to base that calculation off of municipal tax rate in the preceding year. It sounds like a timing convenience thing. Section 7 deals with communications property, which I believe you were refreshed on recently with the budget adjustment. So section 7 is making some tweaks to law that will not be in effect until July 1, 2026 in the law yet. Communications property is to be valued by PBR, which I think you recently heard about. The change here is setting a penalty for not timely submitting an inventory to the department. So this is if the communication service provider fails to submit the inventory on or before April 15 and in the form prescribed, they may fine the provider not more than $100 for each violation, unless the provider's failure is due to factors beyond the provider's control. The next bit here, it says that PBR may use the best information available to determine value. So that is when if the inventory submissions were lacking in some way, like how the department would do in audits in certain situations where if a business did not keep very good bookkeeping, they may have to fill in the gaps with some estimates. And it also states down here that the taxpayer will lose appeal rights if they don't comply with the inventory requirements. Okay, so section 8. We're getting into, we have finished all of the department's items. And we're getting into the stuff Kirby wrote. Section 8. This is a change to how a CLA is determined the year after a mass reappraisal was done.
And this was something that Jill at PBR requested, but didn't make it into the.
This is the chair showing mercy and adding some additional requests. So what we're looking at is, like I said, how the CLA is determined the year after a mass reappraisal. This is for the purposes of education tax only for that year. Under current law, it has the department divide the April grand list value by the January equalized grand list value, the equalized being the one that PBR came up with, and then setting the CLA that way. And if there was just if a mass reappraisal was done recently, in theory, those should be pretty similar, but they're not going to be exact. So there's this extra math, and the CLA won't exactly be, a 1 or a 100% CLA being the CLA has no impact, right? This extra step, this extra math means that it's not necessarily going to be a 100. What this language does is it changes it to say, look, if you just had a mass reappraisal, we're just going to set the CLA at 100. We're not going to do this extra math, and we're just going to go from there.
So you're talking about it as usually the math works out that the CLA is less than 100, but in a lot of cases, the CLA is over 100.
I said it should be similar. Like I think that's the assumption. What I'm trying to explain is the assumption how current law is that it seems like the assumption is that when you divide the April grand list date would be the new value after the reappraisal. And then that's divided by the January equalized, like the most recent equalization study value. And the equalization study is based on recent market sales. So it should be like close.
But it's been strange. It's been strange in these years, recent years.
That's
a
the
good
reason
point.
for this language.
The change. Well, but then, so for example, I have stuck in my head because I was on the school board at the time. The last time we did a reappraisal in South Burlington, it was 113%, which has a significant impact positively for South Burlington taxpayers in that first year. So this would say, too bad it's 100
Yeah.
in that year.
Yeah.
But that also then protects folks who would find a CLA of 90, even though they just did a max reappraisal and would have their tax rate.
So, maybe it's clear in sections in 5406 A and B, but if the director of property valuation and review certifies that a municipality has completed a townwide reappraisal, do you want to say within a certain amount of time?
This is written in the context of like in the current year.
All right. So you don't, all right, so A and B make that clear.
Yes.
Okay. Context.
Sorry to jump in last
Do
minute.
you want context?
Piggyback, I'm sorry.
Do you want any context or do you?
Well, maybe to piggyback on what you had just talked about, because we just went through the appraisal as well. And our new coming over appraisal was 103%, I believe. But you're saying, it would just be for 1 year that 100% would, okay.
It's only for education tax purposes. It's not going to change grand lists or anything like that. It's just for determining the education tax for that year. For the year that the master appraisal was completed.
Okay, thanks. Thanks.
Miscellaneous tax, Rebecca Samaroff isn't able to make it today, and so we're walking through all the language with Kirby, and then Rebecca will come in when she's able. And the bill's gonna likely sit here until crossover when we'll vote it out, and we'll probably do a straw poll like 2 weeks before that
Okay, thank you.
on each section, and probably add more sections after today.
Okay, so the next two sections are extending the health IT fund sunset. This is the healthcare claims tax and the fund that it pays for. Healthcare claims tax is a tax of 0.999% on health claims paid by insurers, and it goes toward paying for information technology that's used in the state. As far as what the fund pays for, that's not my area so much, so I'm not that helpful, unfortunately. But that's the gist of it. This was set up to sunset when it was first put into law, and the sunset has to be extended if the General Assembly wants to continue to have this. So in this case, it's being extended for 2 years. It was set to sunset in 2026. And you see it's being changed to 2028.
This is one of those sunsets that we just push off 2 years every 2 years. If folks want testimony from Nolan on it.
Yeah.
Do you want testimony from Nolan?
Yeah, we should
Okay, great.
find out what
Okay,
we're doing with this thing.
Great. Portia, did you hear that?
So
Sorry.
It's okay. Can we schedule some time with Nolan on the healthcare IT on
Yes.
sunset? Thanks.
Okay, section 11 at the bottom of page 10 is a change to, there's the Vermont credit, or I'm sorry, credit for Vermont higher education investment plan contributions. This would be Vermont's version of a 529 plan. And what I included just for the context, the entire section for you there. But we're adding a new subsection to give you some context. Under the Secure 2.0 Act, it's a federal law from a few years ago. That act was mostly about retirement and giving more options in federal law for retirement plans. The Fed started allowing people to roll over unused amounts from a 529 plan into a Roth IRA for the same beneficiary. Roth IRA is the type of IRA where when money is contributed to it, it's taxed then, but when distributions are made later, it is not taxed. In this case, you would receive a credit for the contribution to the 529 plan when it's so it would be taxed, but then you would get a credit in the short term, and then in the long term with a Roth IRA, it would not be taxed when there's distribution. So that's something that was allowed at the federal level the last couple of years. And this provision here allows for the Vermont version of the 529 plan to also allow people to not have to suffer the penalty for improper distribution when they roll over into a Roth IRA following federal law.
And this one is not from the tax department. This was another member asked me if we could include it.
And a note I'll make just for my experience working in taxes in the state is compliance with how people use their funds from the 529 plan is
Limited?
limited. There's difficulties with tracking that as it is. I would highly doubt that anyone ever gets caught for using 529 plan funds incorrectly.
Funny, just yesterday we were talking about what it meant to have a law in the books that no one was interested in helping people comply with.
It was, and so this kind of thing, people want to do this thing, but then they may voluntarily report themselves and be like, I did a bad thing. I rolled my money over to IRA here. Let me pay the fine for that. And then while other people are like, I'm just going to do it, see if Vermont finds out. And, so you have there's an equity thing, possibly. This is all theoretical. I don't.
For the recording, however, this still does give the department the ability to find those errors.
Yes.
Yes. It's just, I'm trying to put out, it's difficult for them to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm here to encourage lawlessness.
Thank you.
And yes. Section 12. This is John Gray stuff. This is section 12. If you remember also from a couple of sessions ago, we introduced this statewide adjustment, which was supposed to, in theory, make it easier for school districts to understand the impact of the CLA on the decisions they were making by adding more math. And as it turns out, adding more math also means more problems for complications, and occasionally there needs to be some things cleaned up. So this is cleaning up the math and determining income percentage in section 6066.
And my understanding is that the tax department and JFO have been functioning as if this language wasn't statute, essentially, because they assumed it was intent.
And yes, and that tends to happen with these math failures, is that we don't, do catastrophic things to the ed fund because math thing was missing, but we're cleaning it up. So in section 13, John went through some of the Title 16 ed spending and finance sections and replaced NEEP as the inflator with NIPA as the inflator. I don't know a ton about this, but I do know that NEEP is not something that's published anymore. And it's another math thing where the law might say that, but it's impossible. So got to use something else as an inflator. So NIPA is the next best.
I think what Julia, I don't want to speak for Julia, but I'm going to, would say that this is what they've been doing anyway, and this is just updating the language to actually be with current practice. And if we pick a new inflator because of the inflation study before we vote this out, look at all that language already drafted. We could just change that one phrase.
So, yeah, thanks to John for finding all the NEEPs. Get rid of them. That's what these next sections are. And that's what we have so far. 16 sections, and section 17 is the effective dates. The effective dates as they are, the default is it will be effect on passage, because most of these are things that don't require a lot of setup, except that the corporate income tax change, it will be retroactive to start applying to 2025, tax return 2025. And then the current use changes would be October 1, 2026, because that coincides with a deadline for current use. And then the section 5 current use change will take effect on September 2nd, 2026, and apply to grand list lodged on and after April 1. I don't immediately know why they chose September 2nd.
Thank you.
I'm guessing September 1st is probably a significant day and they wanted to make sure it was after that. I could easily find out what that is, but I don't know that right now.
I believe it's when they have to file for an application for current use. September 1st.
Is that September 1st or October 1st?
I think it's September.
Okay.
I may be wrong in that here, but.
It's something along those lines. So like the department chose those.
So, thank you so much, Kirby. Any other questions for Kirby? So far, the only request I have for further testimony other than the tax department is Nolan.
On the current use, we probably want to hear from somebody in Fourth Street, right? Ag committee.
Yeah, we'll send that over to them.
Yeah, I had a question about whether we hear from municipalities like VLCT or somebody about that whole process for forfeiting the $2,000, but it's still they have to do work and what their thoughts are, if any, about them. I'm sure they have thoughts.
Want to hear from some constituents. I'm sure we could bring some in to talk about the difficulty of complying with 30 days.
You,
I have one that would be anxious to speak. Yeah.
okay. Seeing no one else, we're gonna take a break until our next witness at 10:30.